Alright, welcome back to the show. Today we're going to be talking about the AK-22 with their new 6mm ammo. Now, I like covering this kind of topic because it's interesting looking at how other countries attack the Army modernization process. Because with our country, what we do is we just throw billions of dollars at it. You know what, if it fails, we'll throw another billion at it. And if that fails, we got a couple more billion we'll throw at the problem. We went through this problem with like camouflage, stuff like that. So looking at a country that can't do that, it's always kind of cool looking at how they approach the problem and how they go over it. So let's talk about the AK-22, their new ammunition. But before we get into that, don't forget to shop at onlytacticalfans.com where you can pick up tourniquets. These are actually really small, so they can work for pets and children as well. I also have the military tourniquets, the Cat Gen 7s, and a bunch of other cool stuff that you really need, like MREs. So go there, help support the channel. That's what I do to keep the lights on. So let's get into it. What are we talking about here? Russians' new 6.02 by 41, or the AK-22. What are we looking at? We're looking at a new platform. They're basically trying to copy the US's NGSW program, which I guess, well, let's see how they do it. So we're going with a 6mm AK. A 6mm is actually a good cartridge, because you got to understand, inside of a cartridge, there's a finite amount of space. Inside that space, you can put a finite amount of powder, so you have to choose what projectile is going to be able to utilize that powder the best. For example, on an AR-15 size space, like the magazine constraints of an AR-15, in my opinion, the best projectile you can run is a 22 caliber, because you are able to use that little amount of powder to accelerate the projectile to about 3,000 feet per second or a little bit better. And 3,000 feet per second is a great number because your cartridge is shooting, your projectile is shooting really flat. It's got good energy. It's overall really good to go. When you move up to like the AR-10 size magazine, 6mm and 6.5, they are really good. And what I'm trying to explain here is when you go heavier, like for example, if you go to a 308, you don't have enough powder to push a decent 308 projectile, so your velocity starts dropping and getting closer and closer to 2,000 feet per second. So 6mm, 6.5, they're able to stay close to 3,000 feet per second. Really awesome in a 308 size casing. Now you go to a magnum caliber, well, a 300 Win Mag. 30 caliber, that's where you want to go. That is enough powder to push a 30 caliber to an respectable velocity, still be high in the grain weight, have a great BC, because BC also comes into play here. So say for example, if I have a 308 and I have a 6.5 Creedmoor or a 6mm Creedmoor, these two cartridges, even though they're a smaller diameter, are going to outperform the 308 because it's a skinnier projectile. It's able to have a better BC and still have a good velocity with that amount of powder. So as I go bigger, yeah, 30 caliber starts to come into play, but I need to be in a magnum bolt action. If I want to go 338, obviously another magnum bolt action. When I go to like AR-10, 6mm, 6.5. When I go to AR-15, well, I want to be at a 22. If I try to put in something bigger than a 22, I'm just not getting the velocity. Now I could go to the bigger casing, but then I'm going to reduce the actual amount of ammunition inside the magazine. So that's the trade-offs you need to be looking at. So 6mm, now again, I would go with a 22mm inside, or 22 caliber, which would be 5.5mm or 5.45 right in there inside the casing of an AK for platform. But 6mm isn't that bad. It's not like the 7.62x39 where a 30 cal has no business being in that size of casing. It's way too much weight. You just can't accelerate it very well. So we're looking at a 6mm AK with mounting optics. So that's pretty awesome. They're actually building a rifle that can consistently mount an optic. Silencer, okay, we all like silencers. Adjustability, yeah, not bad at all. Here's where it starts getting kind of ridiculous. So the AK-12 was never fielded. I shouldn't say never fielded, never fully fielded. It never took over the AK-74 and the AK-47. So we never fully fielded the AK-12, which was supposed to be revolutionary and just make all the other AKs look stupid. And now we're going to go to an AK-22? Why? That's kind of like, it doesn't even make sense. Why would you can't even complete your last project. Why would you take on a new project? What they're trying to do is they're trying to put a modern rifle in a non-modern forest. And modernizing the force, you don't do it by modernizing the rifle. There's other way more important things than a rifle when you're modernizing a force. We'll talk a little bit more about that towards the end of the video on what actually matters on the battlefield. So, I believe they actually did this program better than we did the XM7, and we had billions of dollars. And here's why. One, it's no exotic materials. It's just standard ammunition, and let's be real. Manufacturing wins wars. If you're legitimately going against a pure, they call it a pure equal, that's like, so, a pure equal would be like, I mean, in my opinion, the U.S. doesn't have one, but it'd be like the U.S. going against like China. Something that has the manufacturing capabilities of us, the technology capabilities of us, they have the same exact fighting capabilities as us, a pure enemy. That would be that. So in that type of warfare, like pure enemies going at each other, or like Russia and Ukraine, I think they're pretty close to being pure enemies. Yeah, Russia has more people, but Ukraine is getting backed up by us and getting better technology, etc., etc., etc. What wins is the ability to manufacture on scale. So, taking the exotic materials out of the casing allows them to mass produce casings, and it could potentially win wars. No exotic pressures. Yeah, the 80,000 PSI sounds really cool, and I love the ballistics it's putting on paper, but man, you're just going to tear those rifles apart. No, it doesn't matter how you look at it. No matter what, when you up the pressure, you're going to reduce the life. That's just the way it is. And it stays as an intermediate cartridge. Instead of going, we went back to what I would consider a full-length cartridge, the 6.8 by 51, and it's basically a 308, right? But it's necked down a little bit. They use some exotic materials on the casing, and they juice up the pressure. In my opinion, that would be considered a full-size cartridge. The intermediate cartridge would be like 5.56, 7.62 by 39, 5.45. So they stayed with one of those, and I think that is a better move. Yes, as a DMR or something like that, obviously you have to go the full-length cartridge, but we're talking about every rifle being fielded, hypothetically, I mean, Russia's never going to do this, but if they actually gave every one of their soldiers a rifle, it doesn't make sense for them to have DMRs. The next thing where I think they did better is they use an armor-piercing core. So the biggest thing that they were talking about with the 6.8 by 51 is, oh, we want it to pierce modern body armor. Well, we can already do that with 308 and 5.56 depending on what core you have inside the ammunition. If you have an AP core inside the ammunition, yeah, we can take on that armor just fine. If you don't, well, the armor stops it. So they actually use an AP core, or at least that's what the information I was able to find. So, the thing is, this rifle is probably never going to be more than a prototype. I could be wrong, maybe Russia just dives in, ass over tea kettle and adopts this, but realistically speaking, it's probably really never going to make it past the prototype phase. This is what they wish they could field. Yeah, they would love to be able to go with a 6mm AK, modernize a platform, get all their soldiers into the 21st century, but they just can't. They just don't have the resources. I mean, maybe if they want to starve their people again, maybe put the communist squeeze a little bit tighter around their population, maybe then they could extract enough money out of their country to be able to do this, but they keep pissing in the wrong ponds and making people mad, and then they get embargoes, and it just doesn't work out well for them. So this is what they wish they could do, which they're probably never going to do. I mean, it could happen, but probably not. So what are the problems with the rifle? We've already talked about how I like it. No exotic materials, no overpressure, intermediate cartridge, AP core. Well, unfortunately, it doesn't outperform the AK-47 until 200 meters. And as everybody knows, most combat happens inside of 300 meters. So it only has 1/3 of the battlefield, which in most cases doesn't really matter, where it would outperform the AK-74. Otherwise, the AK-74 is going to walk it all the way up to the 200-meter mark. Now, you might argue kinetic energy and joules of energy on target, and that it doesn't matter. I mean, for real, point on my body where I can get shot with this new 6mm AK round and die, but if I got shot in that exact same spot with an AK-74, I'm going to live. And you're not going to be able to do it. Because you know what? Our bodies are fragile, and it doesn't take much energy at all to put the hurting on us and put us down. So I would rather have the outperformance out to 200 meters than having the rifle that performs from 200 to 300 meters better. So, what is the modern rifle? The modern rifle is a backup for when everything goes wrong. It's there for the SHTF, or otherwise known as when the shit hits the fan. Everything has just went sideways, and now I'm nose to nose with the enemy. That's where the modern battle rifle, that's its role. And these are the best numbers I could find, but in Ukraine, just to articulate my point, we're looking at 95% of casualties happen from artillery, explosives, or drones. And it's something like 80% of those casualties happen from drones. Only 5% of casualties happen from small arms. So why are we putting all this technology into small arms that only accounts for 5% of battlefield casualties? That doesn't even make sense. Russia's going to look at these numbers and be like, oh, why would I spend all this money going into this new 6mm AK to somehow get this number 5% a little bit better? No, I'm going to spend my money on drones. I'm going to spend my money on artillery. I'm going to spend my money on missiles and explosives and stuff like that. And that goes to the point, in 2026, what does the modern battle rifle need to be good at? Now you could call it assault rifle, battle rifle, PDW. It needs to be good at, number one, CQB. Because the drones, yeah, I guess you could fly them in a window and stuff like that, but you still need to go into houses. There's still instances where you'll be on a patrol and you'll run, boom, right into the enemy. Again, when shit goes sideways, your drones fly off, the artillery happens, well now all of a sudden you find yourself nose to nose with the enemy. That's where your rifle needs to be good at. You still need to clear houses. You still need to go in and out of vehicles. You need a rifle that is really good at CQB. Next, suppression. You need a rifle that can suppress the enemy. You're nose to nose. You need to get them down so you can maneuver, maybe call on a drone, maybe call artillery, maybe retreat, maybe advance. You need something that can put suppressing fire down. So you want something that has a lot of ammunition. It's going to have a lot of light ammunition. It's going to have light recoil. So you can just keep constant fire on the enemy, keep their heads down, and maneuver on them. Optics. You need a rifle that's going to take a modern optic. For massive reasons. The biggest one, training. It's exponentially easier to train somebody on, say, like an ACOG than it is open sights. With open sights, there's a lot going on there. Yeah, I'm what I'd call an analog bridge shooter, so I grew up with open sights, so I'm totally comfortable jumping on an open sight rifle without a problem. But remember where most of the population comes from in our country. California, urban centers. People don't get to shoot firearms there, so you have to train them basically from scratch. It's way easier to be like, hey, all right, so on your ACOG, you're going to see this little triangle, right? That's where your bullet's going to hit, okay? Now, if the line below the triangle goes from shoulder to shoulder, that's where you're going to be aiming. Now, if the line below that goes from shoulder to shoulder, that's where you're going to be aiming. That's way easier to explain than being like, all right, so you got your back peep, your front post. Now, I get it. We're talking about lining up a circle and a stick. And that doesn't make sense inside your head. But you know what? There's a V on the front sight also. So you got to line up a circle, a V, and a stick. All right, now when you get these lined up, you want the stick in the center, not too high, not too low. It's got to be perfectly in the center. I know this doesn't really make sense, but don't worry, your brain will figure this out. Your brain will start auto-aligning it and doing the work for you. But in the beginning, just remember you're gonna take this circle and you're gonna put the stick in the center. And at the very top of the stick, not partly in the stick, not at the bottom of the stick, not slightly above the stick, but at the very, very top of the stick, is where your bullet's going to hit. Now, that only goes for a specific range. If you want to go to different ranges, you got to turn the little dial on the back. Obviously, you have to know how far away the target is, but we're just going to pretend you know. So you're going to adjust the little dial on the back, and now you're going to line up the stick and the circle, and then you're going to put your shot on the target. That's complicated. Otherwise, put the little V on the target and pull the trigger. Way simpler. And you know what? Somebody could even zero the rifle for them, so you can take somebody that's an expert at rifles and zero your optic. So it's almost like there's a word for this, osmosis skill, right? So you're taking the skill of this really good shooter, having him help him zero the rifle. So you've taken some of his skill and put it onto the platform for this newer shooter to utilize. You see why optics matter so much? It's not just about range. A lot of it's just coming down to training and using iron sights in the middle of the night without some sort of like tritium insert or that. Almost impossible. Where an optic actually gathers light and brightens the situation. It's easier to use an optic in a low light situation than it is iron sights. Night, we just pretty much talked about that. The rifle has to be able to fight in the night. Let's be real, America owns the night. And if you want to compete against America, well, you need to get out there and you need to be able to fight in the night. So you're going to need PEX, it's going to have to be night vision capable. You're going to have an optic with a tritium reticle or some sort of tritium on your night sights. The rifle has to do well at night. Stealth. Remember, if you die in combat, there's a 95% chance you got killed by a drone or artillery. So what do you want to do? You don't want to be seen by drones or artillery. So believe it or not, silencers, or as some people call suppressors, actually kind of matter, because if the drone spots your rifle flash going off, it's going to be boom! You don't want that. You don't want to get spotted. Because remember, only 5% chance you're going to get killed by small arms. It's going to be probably a drone. So what do? You hide from the drone. You can't have a muzzle flash going off, else the drone's going to pick up on that. Weight. It needs to be lightweight. And not just because it needs to be lightweight, it needs to be lightweight because 95% of your combat is no longer going to be small arms. So you need to have your rifle, okay. Well, you also need to be carrying a drone or other equipment and gear that's going to be doing 95% of your fighting. So the rifle needs to be taking up less weight so you can adapt more to so you can adapt easier to the modern combat field. Reliability is still king. When you pull that trigger, you need to know that the rifle is going to go off. Reliability matters a lot, and let's face it, after we got new magazines for our AR-15s or M4s or the military version of it, they make the AK's reliability look like crap. They need to bring up the reliability because you got to have that confidence. Remember, we're talking about CQB, nose-to-nose engagements, inside of 300 yards, going bang matters. We're not talking about an 800-yard target like, oh, there's a malfunction, but it doesn't matter. It's 800 yards away. Doesn't even know I exist. I got time to figure it out and see what's going on. No, it's poof, whoa, and then you're going off. That's what's going to happen. Ease of use. Again, we talked about that a little bit before. Most of the population in the country is in an urban center, which has zero firearm experience. So you need a rifle they can pick up, understand, and be able to use. And let's face it, the whole Rock and Lock magazine thing is a huge downside to the AK-47 and the AK-74. I forgot to look at the 12, but I'm assuming they go with more of an AR standard style where you just push it in because the Rock and Lock is complicated. Yes, we can use it, but if you're watching this gun channel, you probably have firearm experience. But can a blue-haired leftist from California use a Rock and Lock effectively? Probably not. So ease of use matters. Logistics. It's got to be something where the ammunition is easy to manufacture, requires little materials, little powder, little lead, little brass, little copper. This way, if you actually get on a peer-on-peer fight, you can out-manufacture them. Because again, manufacturing wins the wars, not technology. Technology helps. It definitely does. Like with drones and stuff, obviously. But manufacturing, that's where it really matters. If you don't have rounds to send down range, well, it doesn't matter how good your round is because you don't have them to send down the range. Anyway, so that's my take on what's going on with the Russians' new 6mm AK-22 that will probably never come out. If you guys like this content, don't forget to subscribe. Also, don't forget to stop at Only Tactical Fans at Shopify.com where you can purchase cool survival gear. And if you'd like to help support the channel but don't want to spend any money, there's a way to do that. You click on that Amazon affiliate link just by clicking on that link. Doing the Amazon shopping you were already going to do anyway. I have a kickback for it because you came there off my channel. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe.